Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to another episode of the Oakland Athletics franchise here on MLB The Show 24. As today we have finally gotten through year number 1 of the franchise. We actually made pretty good timing, I would say, in terms of pacing. And we're just going to recap the year, take a look at some of these team stats, standings. I will show you the playoffs, we'll simulate through the playoffs, and we'll see who in the next episode will be in the 2024 World Series. I hope you guys are excited for this one and the future because the off season is right upon us. The premiere, you guys have voted in the poll. Thank you to everybody who voted. Y'all want it on Friday. So the off season year 2 premiere will be Friday, July 5th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm excited for this off season because this is the first off season. This is crazy. This is the first off season I've done here on the channel since December 21st, 2021. It's been 2.5 years since I've done a baseball off season. That was MLB The Show 21 when I was doing the Cleveland Guardians franchise. Because if you remember last year we did the Mariners, I only did one season of that. And then in MLB The Show 22, we were basically doing wrestling at that point. So I haven't done an off season since MLB The Show 21. So this is exciting. This is going to be a lot of fun. And I cannot wait to bring it to you guys. But let's not waste any more time. We'll go through the team today. As you can see, we did finish 53-109, which obviously is not very good. We were the worst team in baseball, but we actually did improve. If you know, on last year the Athletics went 50-112. So at least we improved. It was only by 3 games, which is not saying much when you're trash. But hey, it is an improvement. This team is on the up and up because they have no way to go but up. But nonetheless, we were 53-109. We'll take a look at the standings real quick. As you can see, we'll start off from the AL East. It was the Orioles who won that division. They also are the 1 seed in the American League with a 102-60 record. We see they beat the Yankees by 7, and the Blue Jays by 19, who both made the playoffs. In the Central, the Minnesota Twins won that division 90-72. They won it 8 games over the Guardians. And in the West, the Rangers and the Astros actually tied our division. I don't know how they do tiebreakers. I need to probably research that a little bit more. But they gave it to the Rangers. They have won the AL West, despite them and the Astros both finishing 95-67. We were 42 games out of the division. In the wild card, the Astros are the 1 seed. They also tied with the Yankees, so I don't know how they got that. Technically, they're the 4, but they're the best wild card. Yankees are the 5, and the Guardians are Blue Jays are the 6. The Guardians only a game out. It was a tight race all the way down to the end. And the National League side of things, the Braves finished 110-52. Absolutely sensational. They beat the Phillies by 7 games, who also made the postseason and won 103 games. So those top teams here in the NL East. In the Central, it was the Cubs who won with an 87-75 record. Both Centrals were not overly that impressive this year. They had a 5-game lead over the Pirates. And in the West, the best team in the National League, even though they tied a record with the Braves, was the Dodgers. They go 110-52. Then we take it to the wild card. We saw the Phillies win 100 games. The Diamondbacks get in. They have a chance to make it to back-to-back World Series with the wild card run. And the Pirates get in as an 82-80 team. But the Mets, the first team out by 2 games back. Let's go through our team stats now to see how we finished in terms of all of baseball. And I do have the Oakland 2023 stats written in front of me so we can kind of compare to see where we did last year. Starting off with batting average, we were the worst hitting team in baseball this year with a 218 average. To compare that to last year, the Athletics hit 223, so we did go down in our batting average by 5 points, which is not ideal. Because we were not a good hitting team this year. We don't think we had anybody hit over 250, which is a little unfortunate. In terms of runs we only scored 536 runs this year. That was dead last in baseball. That's 3.31 per game. And to compare it to last year they scored 3.61 per game. So again, the offensive numbers down this season from where they were a year ago. If we take a look at home runs, we hit 153 home runs this year, which was 27th. Last year, the Athletics hit 171, which was tied for 20th. So you can see the trend with this team. Although I do want to I do think the offense got better the last month or so of the season. But for definitely the majority of the year, they were not very good. If we go to strikeouts, because we did a ton of these, we struck out 1,479 times. That was worst in baseball by a large margin. Over 150 more strikeouts than the next closest team, which is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, to put that into perspective, though, we actually did improve on this category, believe it or not. Last year, the Athletics struck out 1,496 times, almost 1,500, and that was 25th in baseball. So even though we improved, it looks like the majority of baseball did as well, because that number would have put us a little bit higher if we would have struck out that many times last season. We go to the pitching side of things now. Our ERA this year for pitching was 4.78, which is not also that impressive, but we're not the worst team in baseball. The Giants were worse than us in that category. And then if you look at last year, we had an ERA of a 5.48, which is also 29th in baseball. So definitely improved almost by a whole point, despite, that's not saying much because we know how bad the A's pitching was last year. But hey, pitching number was better. I do want to say I feel like the pitching was kind of a letdown overall. There was a lot of disappointments, I feel like. I feel like our rotation and some of the guys in the bullpen could, which I'll name in a little bit, could have been a lot better. So hopefully they can turn that around next year. Runs allowed, we allowed 817 runs, which was 5.04 per game. Last year, the Athletics allowed 924 runs. That's over 100 more, which was 5.7 per game, which is also 29th in baseball last year. Somehow that was not the worst pitching team last year. That was the Colorado Rockies. Then we go over to, we'll say home runs allowed, because I feel like we allowed a lot. We allowed 209, which was 27th. So it's not last. And that's also an improvement. Last year, the Athletics allowed 213, and that was 26th in all of baseball. So we kept the ball in the ballpark a little bit better. And then walks allowed, we walked 577 batters, which I feel like was a struggle for us down the stretch, which was 21st, so that's a little better than I thought, because last year the Athletics were dead last in walks allowed. They walked 694 batters. That pitching for the Athletics in 2023 was just absolutely insanely bad. But nonetheless, and then obviously we were the worst team in baseball with a 3.27 win percentage. But hey, that puts us towards the top next year and potentially getting another high draft pick. So that's the team stats. We'll go into the player stats for the rest of this episode. We'll bring it, or for the stats part of this episode, we'll break it up by position. I'll start off with the starting pitchers. I do want to go from best to worst. Now, some of the guys listed as starting pitchers were in the relief for us a lot of the season, so just keep that in mind. But our best ERA pitcher was Ken Waldichuk, the lefty, who was hurt for the majority of the season. He came back in the second half, started 13 games for us, and he was good. A 3 ERA, which is impressive. Only a 2-3 record, which for an Athletics pitcher, that's really good. So he was definitely very good. Will definitely compete for a rotation spot in the bullpen next year. Obviously, it's a smaller sample size because last year with a full season, he had a 5 ERA. But hey, that's a good trajectory for Ken Waldichuk. Then probably one of the best surprises this year was Joey Estes, the rookie, who was called up shortly after the season began. He was sensational, 22 years old. I didn't really expect a lot from him. I just kind of needed a guy to be the fifth starter in the rotation. Well, he did really good. Played in 16 games, started 14, 69 innings pitched, and he had a 3.13 ERA, which is very solid for him. His whip was a 1.16, and if you look at his WAR, it was positive. So Joey Estes really showed out as a rookie this year, and he will definitely have a chance to compete. If he has a strong spring training next year, I don't see why he shouldn't start in the rotation next year. He was one of our, if not most reliable pitchers for the season. Next ERA was Ross Stripling, which is a little unfortunate because he was pitching well for us until he suffered a bulging disc. And at 34 years old, he's a free agent at the end of the season. He's declining, coming off of a long injury. I don't know if Stripling will put on another jersey because it's a tough injury to come back from, which is a shame because we really missed him in a rotation. He was good. He came over last year on a one-year deal from the Giants. And unfortunately, we probably will not see him in another Athletics uniform. So would have liked to see more from Stripling. Then we get into the mid-fours, so there's kind of a jump here for the rest of the crowd. J.P. Sears is next in that echelon with a 4.53 ERA. He was not very good most of the season. He had a good finish, though. Unless you're talking about his last start, started 30 games. 4.53 ERA, which is in line with where he was last year. He'll definitely be in the rotation next year, though. He's only 28. He's getting better. We got a lot of team control on him. So, and he's a lefty, which is a nice change of pace. But overall, I thought Sears was pretty good. And he's from South Carolina, which is always a little nugget for me. I always enjoy that, considering I'm from South Carolina. But J.P. Sears overall was probably the best, most consistent pitcher the whole year because the other two guys, or three guys, did not pitch for us from opening day. Paul Blackburn was next. He should have been the ace of this staff, but he was not very good overall. 461, which, I mean, is kind of in line with what you expect from Paul Blackburn. I thought he would have got a little bit better. We do have one more year of team control with him, so he'll definitely be in the rotation next year, but he could be a guy that is dealt within the year or so for this team. Then we get to Jose Butto, which is probably one of the biggest disappointments for us the second half of the season. He was the guy we acquired in the Alex Wood trade at the deadline, and I was very happy to get Jose Butto, a 26-year-old who was in his 70 overalls. He was pitching good for the Mets. And then he came over to Oakland. He just completely bombed. Here's his numbers for the year, and as you can see, his overall is actually going down, so that's not good at the age of 26. He ended up with a 4.86 ERA, 7-13 record. He had a good little sample size for the Mets last year, and he carried it in this year, then he just completely bombed. Now, I did go back and I did look. If you're curious to see what his splits were between the Mets and the Athletics, listen to this. When we acquired him at the deadline for the Mets, he had started all 23 of his games, appeared with a 3.63 ERA. That's not bad. Since being acquired from the Athletics, he appeared in 12 games, started 10 of those, and had a 7.90 ERA. That's almost an 8 ERA with the squad. Obviously, it's a little bit hard to tell that as the season's going along because his ERA is still in the 4s, but that's terrible. That's one of our worst pitchers since acquisition. His WAR is still positive thanks to his time with the Mets, but he was a train wreck for us this year, and I thought, he would be a guy we could put in the middle of a rotation next year. I'm not so sure. Butto's really got to show out next spring training if he wants to keep his spot in the rotation. Then we got Luis Medina, who got hurt in his last start with a finger contusion. He spent most of the year in AAA, just was kind of a bust this season, 6.18 ERA. Still needs some more work. We'll probably start next year at AAA for us. And then it's kind of the same thing with Hogan Harris. He got hurt late, strained his oblique. He was another guy like Medina. They were in the same boat, really just auditioning for a spot next year down the stretch when we moved to a 6-man rotation, and he was also not very good. So they will both probably start in AAA next year. Then we get into the relief pitcher side of things. We'll go by ERA again. The top ERA guy was Kyle Muller, which was nice to see. He was the Athletics opening day starter in 2023, and he was not very good last year, so he got sent down. And he got called up this year. I was not really expecting a lot from him. I just kind of needed another bullpen arm to be a long reliever, and he played pretty good. 3.67 ERA. He made one spot start, and it was a good start too. So maybe there's a future again with Muller as a starting pitcher. Now, I don't want to rush it if it's not a big deal because he did do good in his bullpen, and maybe that's just his role. His stamina is going down. His potential, though, is going up as well as his overall, which is nice to see. So Kyle Muller really surprised me this year. I was happy with what I saw. And hopefully he can be more of the Muller that the A's thought they were getting when they dealt Olsen to the Braves a couple years ago. Also, sorry about my voice. I'm a little throat raspy today. Probably the most consistent reliever all year was Trevor Gott, which is a shame that his ERA got up to 4.06 because he was pretty decent most of the year, but he's 31 years old. He's getting older. He's a free agent after this season. Gott will probably not be on the team next year. Scott Alexander was the lefty specialist for us. He got a lot of innings because of it, 77 innings. He pitched 4.21 ERA, but like a lot of the bullpen guys, including Gott, who we just talked about, he's 34. He's going down in overall. He's a free agent. Alexander will not be brought back next year. Mitch Spence was a Rule 5 pickup for the A's in the offseason, and if it weren't for that, he probably would not have been with a major league team at all. He was not very good in the 7-2 games. He pitched 118 innings out of the bullpen, which is a lot. And a lot of those games were in games that we simmed because I just didn't really want to pitch with Mitch Spence because he was not very good. He did get his ERA sub 5, though, but he will definitely not be with a major league club next year. He'll be in the minors to start. Mason Miller, one of the biggest disappointments of this team, and 5.28 ERA. He's coming off an injury. He's a guy that Oakland's front office views as a starter for the future in this organization. We decided to give him a relief job this year. Don't rush his arm back. The plan was, he'd get a relief spot. He looked pretty good. And then going into 2025, he would be a part of the rotation going forward. That doesn't necessarily look like the plan anymore because Mason Miller was bad this year. 5.28 ERA, and his command was not very good, which is his controls at a 66 rating, which is a little unfortunate, but he walked, I feel like, a lot of batters. There's a lot of times that Mason Miller, I couldn't even trust him to go one inning. And if I can't trust Mason Miller to go one inning, how am I supposed to trust him with a rotation job? He'll have a chance to start some games in spring training, but again, I think he'll spend some time in the bullpen next year, which is a little unfortunate because I think that puts him a little behind schedule. But he is 25 years old. He's got some time. He's still improving. His WAR was a negative WAR. But, I'm going to be patient with Mason Miller. Hopefully this was an anomaly season because he is coming off of an injury. But 2025 might be a make or break year for him. The biggest disappointment, though, pitching-wise, was definitely Zach Jackson. He's a guy who, if you look at his overall, is by far the best reliever in this team. 75, and he did not play like it. 5.87 ERA. He pitched not very good. He walked 26 batters. Gave up 13 home runs in relief. Not good at all. And he will be with the team next year, but he is not going to be our go-to reliever anymore. We're going to have to try to find somebody in free agency to help out because I don't want to have to turn to Zach Jackson as much as I did because he was very disappointing this year and he's going down overall. So, his time might be winding down. And then Danny Jimenez was a September call-up. He played in a couple of games. Didn't do very good, 12.60 ERA. Had a horrible first impression. He will probably be with the minors. Closing pitcher this year was Lucas Erceg, which is, he's a good story, a former position player from Vanderbilt who turned into a pitcher. I thought he was okay as a reliever, as a closing pitcher. He saved 28 games. He did blow 5. I don't know if he'll be a closing pitcher next year. I want to commit to him. He'll definitely have a chance to be in the bullpen, maybe more as a setup guy, but I don't know if I'm fully sold on him as a closing pitcher. His WAR was positive, though, so he'll definitely compete for that job in spring training, but he could go either way. Then we get into the position players, and we'll start off at catcher, which is the most intriguing position in this organization because I feel like we have a ton of depth at catcher, and I feel like we underperformed here this year. Shea Langoliers was a big disappointment despite his improvement ratings-wise, which is good to see because he only hit 195 for us this year with 19 home runs, 64 RBIs. Definitely a down year below the Mendoza line, one of the duds of the season. But I still am high on Langoliers. He's improving. He's got 26 age. He's never really proven to be a good bat, though, in his career. His contact is down, or is not as high as you would think. I do think that number will turn around. I think he will turn into a better hitter, but it just was not there this season. He had a positive WAR, though, which is good. And he was one of the better power hitters on this team. He had a career high in RBIs. But it just, contact-wise, it wasn't there for Langoliers this year. Tyler Soderstrom, I feel like, played better at catcher this season. He was missed 2 months of the season with a torn groin, and he has higher upside than Shea Langoliers, which is an interesting story to watch in these coming seasons. With Soderstrom having a higher upside, he played better this year, and with, catching depth down the way in the minors, Langoliers could be expendable. But Soderstrom played pretty good. I wish we would have had him for more games. He had 231, 15 homers, 41 ribbies, 707 OPS. He had a better WAR than Langoliers. Hopefully he can play a full season next year because I liked what I saw out of Soderstrom this year. At first base, Ryan Noda was there. I expected a little bit better from Noda. He has good quirks, which is interesting. He hits good fastballs. He hits good breaking balls, which is not something you really think about. But he didn't do very good this year, including that 25 vision definitely played a play because he struck out 188 times, which is a career high for him. It's a ton. He struck out a ton last season, so he's just not going to hit. He's going to strike out a lot, and hopefully the hits are there. His average was up. His slugging was down. His OPS was down. He did have a positive WAR, though. I like what I see at Ryan Noda. He definitely will probably be the starting pitcher or first baseman next season, but I don't know if he's necessarily a long-term piece. But I like Noda. I'm going to give him another chance. Second base was Zach Geloff. He was the lone all-star for this season. Now, you look at his numbers, he doesn't look like an all-star necessarily. 241 average. He did have a career high in home runs and RBIs. But I do like Zach Geloff. I think he has one of the brightest futures of this team. He's up to an 80 overall. He was a leadoff hitter for most of this season. The all-star appearance does help, and I like what I saw out of his development this season. Third base was kind of a toss-up. We started the year with Abraham Toro as the starting third baseman. He did not play overly that impressive at 205. He only played 9 games with Milwaukee last year. He's kind of bounced around. He's not going to hit for a ton of average. He did hit 11 home runs, which did tie his career high. He had a very good end to the season. You can see the fire sign on him. But he wasn't the most impressive third baseman. I was very impressed with Jordan Diaz this year, specifically offensively. At 23 years old, Diaz got the chance at third base with Toro struggling, and I feel like he made the most of it. He hit 238 in his 67 games he appeared. His OPS was about the same where it was last year, and I thought he swung the bat good. He had a couple of clutch hits when we needed him. He had 29 RBIs, which is a career high for him. Just the one knack I had defensively third base this year was the defense. The defense was pretty poor on the hot corner, and maybe that's something I do want to improve upon in free agency. But I do like Jordan Diaz. If we had the position flexibility to move him to DH, I think that would be a good role for him. I feel like we have too many guys who could play DH, and I need to see a little bit more out of defense from a Diaz, because he did have a negative WAR, so and he's had a negative WAR his whole career. So I just need to see a little bit more from Diaz before I'm fully sold on him. At shortstop, I like what we have depth-wise here at shortstop. Nick Allen was the shortstop for most of the season. He got hurt, came back. He hit 201. He's more of a defensive whiz. You can see the defensive ratings are a lot higher than the contact ratings and stuff. And that's kind of the story for shortstop this season. We didn't hit overly that impressive there. Aledmys Diaz was a veteran who was also with the squad. He will not be back next year. He's a free agent. He didn't play good. Logan Davidson was the rookie who we called up in August to give a chance. He was kind of the lone rookie we wanted to spotlight this year. I thought was ready, because I didn't want to go into the season with the mindset that we're just going to call up players before they're ready. I knew Oakland was going to be a bad squad this year, and I didn't want to just rush these guys to the majors. So I kept a lot of them in the minors, except for Logan Davidson. He did miss some time this season with an injury, which I think might have hurt a little bit, but I gave him a shot with the Major League club this year, and he wasn't that great. He hit 198. His average really did tank the last 2 weeks of the season, but I think it was good exposure for him. He will go into spring training with a chance to compete for the starting shortstop position next year, whether that's with Nick Allen, whether that's with somebody we bring in, I don't know. But Logan Davidson will have a shot next year as well. At left field, Seth Brown was a starting left fielder, and he played pretty good. He was our best power bat this season. He had a team-high 24 home runs. He came up clutch down the way, I feel like. But he is getting older. He's 70 overall. He's 31 years of age. He's going to start declining. Not necessarily sure if he's the future there at left field. We also have Andujar, who ended the season strong. He's there as depth. He might get more of a role next year, especially if Brown struggles. But right now, he's just kind of corner outfield and first base depth. Center field was Esteury Ruiz, which was a little disappointing this season. I want to see a lot more out of him, because he did lead all of baseball last year with 67 stolen bases. And this year he only hit 213, but he did steal 43. So, he's a threat when he's on the bases. He just had a hard time getting on base a couple of times this year. He did walk more than usual, but his OPP was down, his slugging was down, his OPS was down. He was a positive WAR player, and he's got that 99 clutch, so he can hit when runners are on base. He just needs to get on base himself, and it just didn't really show this season. But I do like what we have for Ruiz. He's only 25 years old. He can play anywhere on the field. He's definitely going to be with the team going forward. Right field, this is an interesting story, because Brent Rooker came out of the gates this year on fire. He had a phenomenal April. He's coming off an all-star year, and then just lost it. He ended up hitting 218 average. He struck out 189 times, which at the end did pass Noda for the lead in all the American League. Noda led that category most of the year until Rooker decided to pass it, including that 0 for 5 with 5 strikeout games towards the end of the season. He really fell off, and he is falling off contact-wise. He'll be with the team next year. He'll probably be the starting right fielder, but Brent Rooker really did not have a good second half of the season, and we hope that doesn't continue, because we do have Lawrence Butler there as well as some depth. He's only 23. He hit pretty good this year in his 54 games. He definitely took a step forward, which is what you like to see, and he could be the right fielder going forward. He'll have some chance to show it next season. But that does it for the player stats. I know that's the majority of the episode. There is one more guy I do want to look at stats-wise, and that's Alex Wood, because we did trade him to the Mets, and I want to keep an eye on him. He ended up with a 4.26 ERA, 8-16 record. Started 33 games for them. The Mets obviously missed the postseason. He's a free agent at the end of the season. I do have his splits as well. When he was with Oakland before the trade deadline, he started 22 games, 4.80 ERA. You can see that number's obviously gone down, because with the Mets he started 11 games and he had a 3.13 ERA. So he had a very good tenure with the New York Mets. I think maybe we need to fire our pitching coach, because when we traded Wood, he got better. When we acquired Butto, he got worse. So I don't know if that's necessarily a trend you want to continue. But good for him in New York. Now we'll go to the league leaders real quick. We won't spend too much time here. But start off in the American League. The batting average leader this year was Bo Bichette. He will win the batting title. He also led in hits. Your triples leader was Mike Trout, which is impressive. We'll see what his future holds with the Angels. Your home run leader in the American League was Corey Seager with 41. Him and Juan Soto led the way. RBIs is Royce Lewis with 122. Stolen base, Astudillo, Ruiz, and Tucker with 43. So despite Ruiz's low average, he still was able to top the league in that. Judge drew the most walks. On base was Yordan Alvarez. He was also OPS. And then your wins leader in the American League was John Means. He eclipsed 20. And then saves, Jose Leclerc had 51 for the Rangers. ERA leader was Kenta Maeda of the Tigers. And then strikeouts was Pablo Lopez with 193. And then your pitching war was Garrett Cole. And your batting war was Aaron Judge. In the National League, Freddie Freeman hit 370 this year. I think he's going to win his second MVP. In terms of triples, it was Trey Turner with 14. Matt Olson also hit 51 homers for the Braves. Shohei Ohtani was up there as well. He led the way in RBIs with 127. A lot of Braves in the top. They're a team to watch out for. Mookie Betts led in runs. Nico Horner had 44 stolen bases, which did top all of baseball. Yelich drew the most walks in the National League. OPS was Freddie Freeman. Wins, Shohei had 22 wins. That's the most for baseball. So he might win his first Cy Young. He might add another hardware that he has not had, shockingly enough. AJ Minter had 55 saves. That leads all of baseball. Shohei Ohtani also had the best ERA with a 2.38. And then if we go to strikeouts, it was Spencer Strider and Ohtani with 2.43. Also so much for him not pitching this year. And it seems like it was a good idea he did pitch this season. Pitching war was Zach Gallen of the Diamondbacks, and batting war was Mookie Betts of the Dodgers. So now we'll simulate to the postseason. I didn't want to do it here just in case I lost, the stats on everything. So let me get to the actual bracket, and we'll wrap up this episode in year one by going through the playoffs and looking at the awards real quick. All right, so here's an official look at the playoff bracket. You can see it. The Orioles, the 1 seed. Texas Rangers, the 2. The Twins, the 3. The Astros, the 4. The 5. The Yankees, the 6. The Blue Jays. And then on the National League side of things, the Dodgers are the 1. The Braves are the 2. The Cubs are the 3. The Phillies, the 4. The Diamondbacks, the 5. And the Pirates, the 6. Before we go through the playoff bracket, we do want to look real quickly at the awards to see who won those categories. We'll start off in the American League. Your MVP is Juan Soto. He had 299, 41 home runs, 111 RBIs. I mean, he was definitely well worth that category. He is going to get paid massive bucks this offseason. He improved his stock even higher than what it already was. And we'll see if he stays with the pinstripes. I'm not so sure now that he's got an MVP to his arsenal. He's going to demand a ton of money. Cy Young was Corbin Burns of the Orioles. That was a little surprising. He had a 3.15 ERA. He didn't lead any category, but he was consistent, and he was a part of the best team in baseball. I think I might have gone with like Garrett Cole or somebody. I think he got robbed. But hey, Corbin Burns, he gets his second Cy Young in his career, and he hopes to lead the Orioles to the World Series. Batting title goes to Bo Bichette. Reliever of the year was Brian Abreu of the Astros, who was really impressive. Rookie of the year goes to Evan Carter of the Rangers. We highlighted that in the final week of the season. He was really good for the Rangers. I mean, look at those stats already. He's an 86 overall. Just another bat to add to the Rangers' deadly lineup. Hank Aaron was Yordan Alvarez. And here are your gold glovers. You can take a look at them. Our best chance of an award does not go our way. And then here are the Silver Sluggers in the American League. As far as the National League, your MVP was Matt Olson. He gets it done. The second straight year was an Atlanta Brave. 51 home runs was very impressive. I might have gone with Ohtani, but instead Olson gets his first, a former Athletic, getting hardware. Your Cy Young was Shohei Ohtani. Not really a surprise. Another piece to his collection. Look what he's already amassed in his Major League career. And now he's got his first Cy Young. Batting title was Freddie Freeman. I think he also got robbed of the MVP. I think he should have got a little bit more votes. So it was the fact he only had 27 homers that really weighed him down. AJ Minter is your reliever of the year. Rookie of the year is Noelvi Marte of the Reds. He had a good season, 257. He's a bright spot for Cincinnati, which is a team to look out for going forward in the National League. He won the Hank Aaron Award, despite the fact he only hit 27 home runs. And then here are your Gold Gloves in the National League. And here are your Silver Sluggers in the NL. But that's going to bring us to the postseason. I'm just going to simulate the playoffs today. I know this episode is going really long. Geez, I'm over 30 minutes now. I apologize for that. But I do want to give my predictions real quick. It's something I like to do in these episodes before I show you the actual playoffs. But here's a look at what I think is going to happen in the postseason this year. You can see I have the Braves winning it all. I think we're going to get a rematch of the World Series from 2021 between the Braves and the Astros, and I think Atlanta takes it once more. I have them winning in 6 games. A couple of surprises. I do have the Phillies knocking off the Dodgers in the NLDS. I think that LA will again choke like they do. But my ALCS is the Rangers over the Astros over the Rangers, in 7 games in another sensational series, just like last season. Then I have the Braves knocking off the Phillies in 5 before taking the crown. Go back to ours. Let's see if that actually happens. So I'll simulate each round, starting off with the wild card round. And here's how that unfolded. The Yankees knocked off the Astros in 2 games. So already I am throwing my predictions out the window, as well as the Blue Jays knocking off the Twins. And then the Diamondbacks beat the Phillies and the Pirates beat the Cubs. So I went 0 for 4 on the wild card round. So yeah, maybe not listen to my predictions. So that brings us to the ALDS and the NLDS, where it's the Yankees and the Orioles, the Blue Jays and the Rangers, and the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Braves and Pirates. And when we simulate that, the Rangers and the Yankees will move on. The American League and the National League, it'll be the Braves and the Diamondbacks. So we have a chance for a World Series rematch, but not if the Braves and the Yankees can play spoiler. And we'll see real quickly who it will be in the World Series. And it will not be a rematch. Instead, it will be the other teams. The Braves knock off the Diamondbacks, and the Yankees beat the Rangers in 7 in a sensational ALCS to set up the Yankees and the Braves in the World Series. And we'll see who takes that in the next episode. We will go through the World Series before finally bringing us to the off season come Friday. But thank you guys for staying with me this episode. I know this ran a little bit longer, but I did want to cover the whole league for you guys. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you're ready for the World Series and year number 2, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more franchise content. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.